Hello ladies and gentlemen, I have a TDV8 4.4 Range Rover and my alternator decided to pack in, and as we all know the alternator is in a crap spot to get to. There's not too much information out there about how to actually pull the alternator out, so I thought I'd make a video. And I started by putting the bonnet into the service position, as you can see there. Every L322 has this capability. And then I pulled the engine cover off, pulled this boost pipe off that goes from here to here. Got to unplug some electrical connectors. This little line there, and then it just pulls off. There it is down there. And then pull the airboxes out, and that's pretty easy. You've only just got to undo one hose clamp on each airbox and they just pull out of their rubber grommets. Here they are down there as well. Making sure to put a rag in the intake. Well, that's actually the output there, because the intake's these ones here. Goes through the filter and then out through there, and it goes into here. Put a rag on both of them just so no creepy crawlies or anything get down there. And now I'm just unplugging this wiring loom here. There it is here. See all that? That all plugs into these plugs here, which run down the passenger side, if you're in the UK or Australia, of the radiator shroud, and it goes down to the swap over valve at the bottom and some other things. I just thought I'd document it, piece of video together, and let you know how I go, and if there's anything I get stuck on, I can document it all. There's only a couple of things that you've got to unbolt off the side of the shroud. You've got this boost pressure sensor or something that bolts on there. You've got to pull these plugs off. They're sort of clipped onto the shroud. That plug there is this one up here. So that goes on like that. Swing it up out of the way. And now I've just got to drain the coolant, which is a bit of a pity because of this hose here. You have to drain the coolant to get the shroud out, and the aluminium pipe that runs up the front of the motor, that one there, into the thermostat housing. So I will dive a little bit deeper into it and then take another video and piece it together once I'm a little bit closer. Righto, a little bit of an update. I've gone around and unbolted all the little bolts that hold the shroud onto the radiator. There's about 12 bolts the whole way around. I've unbolted the changeover valve, which, if I get my torch, shine it in there. Where are we? Right, there's the changeover valve right down there. This bugger here, so it's loose. It's got 3 bolts that hold it to the shroud, and I undone the hose clamp down there, it goes into the intercooler. So now the shroud is loose. I've just got to take this top hose off, undo the fan, and then the whole lot should slip out. I'll show you what it looks like underneath, if I can. Let's see. It's pretty limited for room to poke the camera around, but there's one of the intercooler hoses there. All them other ones along a little bit further over there, they're radiator hoses. But up here, which is on the driver's side of the shroud, so there's a bolt there. There's a clamp here for this aircon line that bolts onto the shroud, and there's about 2 or 3 other bolts underneath that you've got to undo. Anyway, I'll get some coolant drained out of it and then lift the shroud and that out and go to the next step and see how I go from there. See you in a minute. What I'm doing here is using a brake bleeder, and I'm sucking the coolant into this little reservoir. It's all frothy from sucking it up, but tipping it in there so that I can hopefully take this top hose off without spilling coolant everywhere. Alright, after a bit of rummaging around, I've got the fan and the shroud out. Just got to take your time really, play around. Disconnected some hoses, drained a bit of coolant, and now I guess I can take the belt off and start undoing the alternator. Here it is out here, the shroud and the fan. Way too many bolts around it, so when you put it back together, definitely don't put all of them in, maybe just put the corner ones. Be far easier to get it out that way. These ones here are an absolute nightmare to get to on both sides, and there's even a hidden one inside the where the fan rotates. So that would be my shortcut for reassembly. Don't put all the bolts back in, but it doesn't look too bad to get out. Nonetheless, I've only sort of been playing around with it for about 2 hours, and I've been taking my time, so see how we go pulling the actual alternator out now. Well, loosen off the tensioner, flick the belt out of the way, undo 3 bolts on the alternator, and it dropped out nicely. Now I'm just trying to undo that little trigger wire and then the terminal on the back, and then should pull straight up through this gap. Not too bad at all if you've got some patience about you anyway, I suppose. If you're an angry bastard, well, yeah, you'd probably be throwing tools by now, but just take your time, have a beer, and careful you don't break anything. Well, I've got the plug undone. It was a little bit of a bitch to actually unclip for some reason, so I sort of just used a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver. With one hand I was pressing the clip release, and with the other I sort of dug this into the side of the plug and was able to pop it out. Now I'll just undo that terminal, and hopefully tomorrow or the day after the new alternator rocks up. Here you go, here's another look at the radiator shroud and clutch fan for people who haven't done this job before. Just a recap of what you can unplug. This is the top. Unplug a few things and you can leave this wiring and this vacuum hose clipped onto the shroud. No doubt that it's a little bit of a bitch to pull out, but you'll get it if you're patient. So here's the old alternator, Denso, made in Japan. It's funny because people will say, bloody Land Rovers breaking down. It's a Japanese part that buggered up. Ain't no Pommy part there.